just a couple closing thoughts in this hour, which has concentrated so much on GOP politics. Obviously, we talked about Ted Cruz and Donald Trump in our Breaking the News segment with Bradley Herring, and we reviewed that GOP debate with Ryan Grimm of the Huffington Post. Just one closing thought, because there's another aspect of this debate that I think really hasn't gotten enough attention in the mainstream press, and that's the absolute bloodthirstiness of the GOP candidates and the role that the media plays in encouraging this bloodthirstiness. I chided CNN earlier in the hour for not featuring the fact that the reports were incorrect and that the San Bernardino shooters did not openly profess their allegiance to ISIS on Facebook and all of that. But CNN's role in the debate should not be overlooked either. We even had the moment when moderator Hugh Hewitt asked Ben Carson, was he willing to cause the deaths of thousands of innocent people, including children? Did he have what it takes? Hugh Hewitt's exact words were to Ben Carson, was he willing to be, quote, as ruthless as Churchill was, end quote, in executing a war? And, of course, Ben Carson rose to the horrific bait which Hugh Hewitt had laid before him and replied, and I quote, because no one can do Ben Carson like Ben Carson, quote, "It's actually merciful if you go ahead and finish the job rather than death by 1,000 pricks," end quote. Let me repeat that, because I think that the bloodthirstiness of that, of course, delivered in Ben Carson's trademark calm style, needs emphasis. Quote, "It's actually merciful if you go ahead and finish the job rather than death by 1,000 pricks," end quote. In other words, spurred on and urged on by Hugh Hewitt, we have a Republican presidential candidate willing to say that he would cause the death of thousands of innocent children, and that somehow that was merciful because we are, as everyone insists, in a state of war with ISIS, and somehow we're convinced that ISIS represents an existential threat to the United States, that a couple 100,000 people on the other side of the earth can destroy our way of life. In fact, a poll this week, 71% of people polled by NBC News on Monday agreed that, quote, "the shootings and random acts of violence that have taken place this year are now a permanent fact, a permanent part of American life." So we have resigned ourselves to endless violence instead of committing ourselves to shut down that part of it that we can control through sensible gun legislation. We have decided somehow that ISIS, rather than being, as terrorism always has been, a police problem, is instead something that's an existential threat that should have us willing to kill tens of thousands of children. It's shocking, but at the same time, not surprising, because when we listen to what our politicians have to say and what we listen to our media has to say, it is death by 1,000 pricks.